Today we will learn about promises in the JavaScript. So the promise is basically an object which represents eventful completion or failure, right? So let's say we make a network request or the DB calls in our application, then it can be wrapped around promise, right? So it can either be in the pending state, fulfilled state, or rejected. These are the three states of the promise. So now let's see the syntax, how to create promise. So I will just create a simple promise saying my promise equal to new promise, and the promise, it can either resolve or reject. Like there are two parameters here, reject, and in this callback function, let's say you made the request to server. Like I will just type make server request, or we can say like async operation, right? We don't know how much time it will take to complete, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. So let's say it completed, so const success equal to true. So I just set the success to true. I'm assuming here it succeeded, right? So if success, so if it is completed, then we will resolve our promise saying that it is promise fulfilled. Yeah, and let's say it did not succeed, then we can reject the promise, right? Because that's the true state here, right? So promise rejected. Okay, since we defined this promise, now we can make use of this promise, and there are some methods, okay, on this promise we can use. So that is my promise, and then dot then is actually method dot then, and in here we can pass the parameter like variable name. So basically in this result we will get this result value this here, right? So I will just console log that, console.log result, and another method is catch, and let's say I will name this error variable, right? So if the promise is rejected, we will get that in the catch method. So in this we will catch that this rejected value in the error variable. Then I can console log that error variable. And there is one another method called dot finally. So this will always execute no matter what. Okay, so I will just console.log promise settled. Okay, so let's save this much and let's try to run it. By the way, I'm using this online editor. It is easy to set up and run online, so that's why you can use create new JS file and code it on the VS Code also. That is also fine. So you can see that our promise is fulfilled, right? And if I run this, promise fulfilled. Finally, oh, see this yellow H. Yeah, we need to type console.log. That's why it is not showing up. Yeah, see, since our promise is true, right? It executed. We basically resolved our promise, so that's why we are getting dot then and then finally, right? So let's say our network request is failed, so I will just set the false, then clear console, run it again. You can see that promise is rejected and promise settled. This will always run, right? So this is one example of the promise, right? Then other thing is, let's say you want to create multiple promises, right? So how you will do that? Let me comment this part first. So let's come down below and start defining our multiple promises. So in here I will not define a big promise, I will just make use of small things. So let's say promise 1, const promise 1 equal to promise dot resolve first, then I will just copy this line, second, third. So these are the 3 promises, right? 1, 2, 3. Then you can make use of promise.all. So promise.all is a method which will take array of promises and resolve then when all the promises are resolved. Okay, and if any of the promise is rejected, it will immediately reject. Okay, so let's do that. Let's make use of that function promise.all, and in here we can pass in the array promise1 comma, I will just copy paste. Okay, so we pass the promises in this promise.all function, and then .then. So in result, right, we can print that console.log. Okay, and then catch. So if we get an error, I mean in this case we resolved it, we will not get an error, but yeah, let's add it, console.log error. So let's save this and let's clear and run. So you can see that by stepwise it resolved all the promises, right, using promise.all function. Then let's do one thing, and in the second let's reject this promise. Okay, so let's clear it and run. Okay, let me add the first. Okay, error. So you can see, right, let me add plus, it is printing on the second line. Okay, yeah, that's what we wanted. See, it immediately instead of executing all of them, it immediately rejected. Yeah, error second. Then other function is promise.trace. Now with this function, it resolves or rejects as soon as one of the promises settles. Okay, so what do I mean by that is, let me define promises. So const, let me first comment top one, first promise. So let's say there are 2 promises which are getting executed. First promise equal to new promise, and in the resolve parameter, let's proxy, like it is taking some time. Yeah, that's in the set timeout, what we will do, we will create arrow function here, right, and we will resolve this promise. We will return the first text. Yep, and we will resolve it. Okay, let me expand this. Yep, we will resolve it after 500 milliseconds. Yep, and then I will make copy of this, and it will be a slow promise. Yeah, and let me change the text inside slow, and we will resolve it after 1 second, let's say 100 milliseconds, sorry, 1000. And then we can make use of this raise function, promise.raise, and we need to pass the promises in the array, fast promise and slow promise, right, and .then. I will not add catch to this because we are resolving it, right, so that's why. Then result, so in the result we will get the data, and console.log result. So let's save it and run this. So you can see like after once 500 millisecond it is executing that fast one, right? So that's what the race condition does. Yeah. So now the next step is next method is promise.all settled. It will wait for all promises to settle. It can be either rejected or fulfilled. Okay, so that's what the next is. So let me comment this. At top I can add a comment, so you will know that what it is. Promise.race. Yep. And this was for the promise.all. Now let's define for the promise.all settled. All. Yeah, promise.all settled. In here let's define our promises. Const promise. I will copy this again. So we will define 3 promises. Means second is rejecting. Okay, now what we need to do, promise dot all settled, this function, and in here we need to pass in array all the promises. And in this dot then we will get results, and we can console log the result. So for this method we will get like status and the value also, right? So if I save this and let's try to run it. Okay, there is some error. It doesn't have comment in front of it, that's why. Okay. Okay, it is sorted. Let's clear that. Let's run it. Okay, so we got the object, and array of objects, and inside that we can select the status is fulfilled because it is resolved, right? And the value is first. This is the value which we sent from here. It got caught in this this resolution, right, when we resolved our promise. And then for second it is status is rejected because we rejected that promise, right? The promise got rejected basically, right? Now let's there is one more method, and the third obviously it is fulfilled because we resolved it, that's why it is fulfilled. Now let's comment this. Let me add this line. So there is one more method, it is promise.any, and it will resolve with the first fulfill promise or reject if all promise are rejected. Okay, so let me do that. Promise.any, and for this we will need again those 3 promises to set an example. Yep. So I will uncomment this. And I will write this function like promise.any, and in array we will pass those values, promise values. Let me copy this again. Yep. And then dot then results console.log result, and dot catch error, we will console rejected all, and we can add the error here. I just added a message. Okay, then what I can do is let's save this and let's try to run it. So it is saying that first, so promise dot any definition was, let me write it. So it resolves with the first fulfilled or rejects if all promises are rejected. Okay, let me break it down. Okay, basically it will resolve if the first is fulfilled or rejects if all promises are rejected.